Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, all of my beautiful friends from the internet, for another episode of the Reddit Asks Us podcast. I am so happy to be here with you again on this wonderful Tuesday, or whenever you happen to be listening to this episode, whether that be morning, evening, or night. Now, remember, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast, please leave us a rating and also leave us a review. And also remember that you can respond to this week's question if you go to Spotify and you click the description of the episode, and right on the right-hand side when you click the description, there should be a white icon that says reply, and you can reply to this week's episode's question and answer it, and then you can submit your response, and you will be notified when your response is published, and I will read that response out loud on the next week's following episodes. So again, just welcome all back to the Reddit Asks Us podcast, the podcast where we read and react to comments from r/Askreddit. Now, I am your host, Luke Dick. I'm so happy to be here again with everybody. So now that is out of the way, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been downloading and listening to episodes as of late. It is it is such an honor, really, to get everybody who is coming to the show, hearing about the show, just listening in. It's just an awesome experience to have everyone tuning in, and I just want to say thank you to each and every single one of you for deciding to click on an episode and deciding to click download and still keeping with us. So, all right. Why don't we hop into last week's episode? So last week's episode was, what was something people don't understand until they've been through it themselves? I didn't actually really think about like how kind of serious or deep this question was. Since all the comments were so deep last week, I wasn't really like, I should have read off a couple more, because some of them were a little bit less serious. It wasn't flared as serious on the subreddit, so, or on Askreddit's serious. So I was kind of hoping that there were going to be some more like laid back responses from the comments, but I should have kept like reading on, because there were ones that were like, oh, working retail, and I was like, oh yeah, most definitely, but it was quite serious. So everyone's commenting. I really appreciate you commenting, because and sharing some things, because it's definitely not easy to maybe rehash some of those memories if you have been through something difficult. But sometimes I just also want to say it's really important to talk about how difficult things, because other people, it can be really helpful for other people if they're going through similar experiences. So, all right, this first one comes from Phil Savannah. So, thanks again, Phil. Great to see you again. Being poor or broke or even homeless, not being able to see or hear, having an addiction, and how you're treated while working a customer service job. Some people have never worked retail, and it shows. I hope you don't have all of those things, or those things aren't all affecting you. That would be really awful, Phil. I don't think, maybe not the hearing one, otherwise you wouldn't be able to listen to this show. But oh my God, I knew people who've never worked retail, because it's like, oh, daddy will cover it. Oh, just use daddy's credit card. We took the yacht over to Geneva, and then we sailed it. We sailed the yacht drove the yacht down to South America, and spent some time there, and spent basically the whole winter there. I'm exaggerating. I don't know anybody with yachts, but you know what I mean? Like, just some of these people who've clearly never worked a retail service job. It's like, how hard could it be pouring my coffee? It's like, okay, buddy, like, relax. It's honestly, retail can sometimes, and restaurant jobs can be less about well, obviously so much weight is put on your shoulders to do pretty much everything, and you get paid the least out of everyone in the entire company. And but also the way that people get treated, it's exhausting, man. Like, you just get so much responsibility shelved on your shoulders, and then you're paid horribly, but then also it's like if something goes wrong, it's all your fault. So yeah, it's not easy, man. Next one comes from Stressed Human. How bad flashbacks from PTSD can be. Never wish it on anyone, but please stop using the term flashback or PTSD. Even any other mental or physical differences, slightly. I guess I've never really thought about that before. I guess I always used like the term, like the term Vietnam flashback in like a very colloquial sense because I've just seen it in so many memes. But I definitely haven't thought about the fact that like to somebody who actually does have real PTSD, that could be maybe a triggering sort of response. Because yeah, I guess I've never really thought about that one. So maybe I'll have to be more careful using that term. So I apologize. I guess I just use it so much in a different context, in like a much more like comedic way, so in an ironic way. So I'm not really thinking about how much, like, if that somebody actually had PTSD, how much that might affect them. The last one comes from Cheese. Having a dad leave. That sounds awful, and I seriously wish that amongst no one. I really hope that's never happened to you, Cheese. I hope maybe that's just something you might say because it is a good response. It's something if you never don't understand until someone's been through it. But yeah, that sounds fucked up. That sounds honestly really, really awful. And like I don't mean to say this to shit on anybody, but like I personally am just like so thankful because like my dad is such a role model for me, like such a massive person in my life, somebody who I feel like I've always looked up to in terms of, I've always really appreciated things about my dad, being, a strong person, being someone, who is resilient and being somebody who's just a good person and is always willing to help another person. And my dad has been like a very big role model for me. And I think that it's important to have both, like, regardless of feminine or masculine, masculine or feminine roles in which are played by your mother or father, I still think it's important to have a mother figure and a father figure, because just as a like a guidance sort of thing, as someone who provides contrast, whether you come from, parents who aren't necessarily like men or women or like the traditional sort of family, it's still good to have like different parental roles. Having two parents can be really helpful, just because you have totally different perspectives and two different parenting styles and different perspectives from different parents can just be a really impactful thing. And I think just the things that I learned from my dad are not necessarily the same things I learned from my mom, and I think that it's really important to just have that different parental dynamic. I learned a lot from my dad. My dad is definitely somebody who I really look up to in my life. So yeah, to not have for me to imagine what it would have been like to not have my dad, for him to be absent from my life, is just like, it's just really fucked up. Like, I just would really wish that upon nobody. All right, why don't we just hop into this week's episode? So this week's episode is, what is a fact that was taught in school that has been disproven in your lifetime? Okay, and this is one that kind of like stuck out to me because I was thinking, I think in our modern society, since things have advanced so quickly and we see science at work in front of us all the time. Like, I was just talking today to a coworker of mine about how we use like smart boards. Like, and I grew up going to school with like teachers using smart boards, and that's how we learned, right? And it says we all use technology all the time, and we're always seeing this like advancement in technology. Even my like experience throughout going from elementary school to high school and graduating, and even now in university, there is such I've witnessed the rapid advances in technology and how it's impacted areas like education and stuff like this. And I feel like, but since we live in this society that's so advancing so quickly in terms of technology, I think we also forget that like there's so much we don't know, and there are a lot of things that we think we know but yet we don't, and then it only becomes apparent when we learn something. It's like, well, that actually isn't true. Like, at all. That actually has no basis in like factual understanding whatsoever. So it's always fun to learn these things because, although we might think of ourselves as, smart people, and the things that we learn in school are interesting and like cutting edge of what knowledge is, but sometimes not always like that. So first one comes from Timmy MTX. I learned tongue taste maps at school. Turns out it's complete nonsense. Reply from Spankpocalypse Now. I have a feeling science knew it was nonsense for some years while schools kept pushing it for some reason. I remember learning tongue taste maps too. Like, I remember actually, I used to eat warheads. Like the warheads, the candy, they're like these, I guess if you don't know what warheads are, they're like a really sour candy, I guess, these really sour little candies, and I used to like put them on certain areas of my tongue because I thought it would make it more sour. I thought I'd be able to like taste it more, but it turns out no, that's complete nonsense. It literally makes absolutely no sense. But I do remember, like, I remember the little diagram with the, like, this is where you taste salt. This is where you taste sweet. This is where we have to get rid of this and put it out of a curriculum because it actually makes no sense at all. Next one comes from Fridges Are People Too. Once you get to high school, nobody will accept papers not written in cursive. Yeah. We typed everything on computers. This annoyed me so much. Oh my god. In elementary school, we had to do everything in handwriting. Everything had to be handwritten. If you didn't do an assignment in handwriting, they would give it back to you. Like, or you could get a 0. And oh my god, I hated handwriting. I couldn't stand it. And now my printing has been now forever fucked up because of how much I had to handwrite as a kid. Now I write in this like hybrid chicken scratch style of fucking printing and handwriting, and it's just it's so awful. But and that's right. I'm going to just blame my horrible printing skills on all my teachers. I'm just going to just go ahead and shift all that responsibility. Nope, it's not has nothing to do with me. No, could not be me. All right, miss me with the chicken scratch allegations. Okay, I'm beating the chicken scratch allegations, and I'm just totally shifting blame onto my old teachers because that's just what I feel like doing right now. But oh my god, it was so annoying having to do this. And then when I remember I moved cities when I was like 11, and I started and I put all my assignments in handwriting, and the teachers were like, "You need to print this because I can't read this as well as I can read printing. Like this is making it more complicated for me." And all the kids that I knew and went to school with, they didn't even know how to handwrite. And I was like, "Are you serious? I spent my entire life learning how to handwrite. There's being beaten into my brain how to handwrite, and yet none of you kids know it." And I talked to kids from other elementary schools, none of them knew how to handwrite. I was like, the amount of papers that I've had to hand in that have been all handwritten is just astonishingly high for nothing. And then when you get to high school, you type everything on a freaking computer. I don't even remember when a single time in high school I had to hand something in that was printed with actual pencil. Like a math exam, writing a test. I never handed a single paper in. I don't think they would even accept it if it wasn't printed off a computer. Nowadays, all my exams in university is you have to. If you could take home, you have a take-home exam. This exam must be written in a 12-point Arial font. Oh my god! So printing has become completely useless. So, thanks. That's great. I love how much time and energy I spent into doing that. Reply from Cowboy Canadian. My God, elementary school teachers think high school is like signing up for basic military training. My grade 8 teacher told me that high school wouldn't let me use pencils. use the bathroom during class, fail me if I'm a minute late for class, and not let me talk to my friends in the halls, etc. It was like they watched a Hollywood high school movie and thought it was real. Yeah, what was it like when they went to high school? Like, was it just like, back when we went to high school, we were worried about those Nazis, so things were real strict. Yeah, I didn't have teachers. I had drill sergeants. I had to just as soon as, sir, can I go to the bathroom, sir? There was no, there was none of this, hi, miss, may I please, go to the washroom? No, it was none of that. It was like, Sergeant, Private, do you think you can hold your piss on the front lines? Do you think you can hold your piss on the fucking front lines? That's what I thought. You hold your piss. You're getting piss. All right, no pissing. It's like, Jesus Christ. I think this is a little intense for high school. Okay, I just want to learn algebra. I'm just trying to make my way through basic trigonometry. Do you seriously think you can take a piss? Why don't you piss your pants right now? Piss them right now. I want to see piss in those pants. Oh my God. Yeah, and high school is like, the whole thing about high school is like, you get more responsibility. Like, you leave elementary school knowing that in high school there's less people to hold you accountable. Oh my God. Because it's just more kids. And then in university, if you end up going to some post-secondary school, it's basically you're on your fucking own. You basically have to teach yourself everything. Which, yeah, why don't I pay a shitload of money to get a degree from this school and learn everything myself? Yeah, that makes a shit ton of sense. Next one comes from Charles Not Manson 69, the food pyramid. And then the next one comes, and then a reply from Entertainment IC or LCY 1911. Give us this day our daily 17 pieces of bread. Blessed be thy Lord, in his name. Blessed the Son, the Spirit. What is? I don't even fucking know. In thy name, the Son, the Spirit, and the Holy the Son, the. What the fuck? Oh my God, I'm so bad at religion. I'm awful at this. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Now, please proceed to eat this entire loaf of bread. You know what's funny is my mom, she was a dietitian when I was younger. She moved on to do different jobs and stuff, but it's not like she was just like, stripped of her dietitian standing. It's not like they were like, you are no longer a dietitian. You violated the dietitian's code of conduct. You've been stripped of your dietitian because you've been teaching you've been teaching that you can eat salt. Okay, we're now stripping you of your established title. No, she used to teach like Canada's food guide, and like, because we didn't have the food pyramid, obviously, because we live in Canada, but we had the Canada food guide, and they did have their own version of the pyramid, but it's because it's now that stuff has become so like irrelevant because food is so much like eating and all this stuff and daily recommended. It's hard to do that now because we understand that different people vary so widely by individual about like what it can be good for their intake. Like I was just talking this morning with Sam, who's been on the podcast, and we were talking about how like he was talking with his dad because his dad's a doctor, and he's been reading different articles in medical journals about salt and how salt is really not as bad for us as we thought. Like an excess of anything is not good for you. But people equate salt with sodium, but salt is only 60% sodium. It's sodium chloride, right? So it's 40% chloride, and which is a lot. And it turns out that salt really isn't as bad for people as once would have previously believed. But yeah, like if you actually, and it's funny because if you actually go through like the whole daily recommended, yeah, it's basically telling people to just eat a loaf of bread and basically only vegetables. It's just a loaf of bread, and if you fucking even look at meat, then you're gonna die. You will die from cardiac arrest if you eat a hamburger. I swear to God, if you touch a steak, you might as well just kill yourself because you have heart disease. It is so imperative that we do not even touch meat or anything that has like fat or salt in it, because you're gonna die. So it's just you're gonna premature death. Welcome to your premature death. Oh, you wanna eat that steak sandwich? Oh, you think that steak sandwich looks yummy? How does death sound? What do you think about death? Yeah, what do you think about just having a heart attack right now? Yeah, that's what I thought. Doesn't sound great, does it? Next one comes from Pay Emmy. In pharmacy school around the turn of the century, we were taught that people in legitimate pain don't get addicted to opiates and opioids. Yeah, that sounds so logical. The people who need them the most and who are going to be using them the most, yeah, they just don't get it. They're void of addiction. It just doesn't happen to them. Just because, see, they really need it, right? And when you really need something, you're not going to get addicted to it. You're just not, especially when that thing makes you feel, like you're a normal person again. And then if you don't have that thing, then you feel awful. And not only are you in, just ridiculous amounts of pain because of your condition, but you're also now just fiending for this feeling of feeling normal and feeling okay and feeling good and feeling nice. And it's just, strip that away from you. Yeah, just, and then it's just cold turkey. Once you can't get your prescription anymore, just cut them right off. Yeah, it's just people don't get addicted. They just don't. It's impossible. But Professor, I just don't see how a motivation for taking something could change someone's, susceptibility to being addicted to it. Why don't we just, I love the question, but how about we don't take that question because I don't like that question. Okay? Not a big fan of that question. All right? I think you're trying to undermine me. All right? I'm the professor. Okay? I'm the one with the doctorate degree. Okay? I'm an MD. All right? You are nothing. So just, how does that feel? Why don't you just shut the fuck up and sit down and just listen to me? Because I'm the ultimate authority here. All right? You want to ask questions? All right? Life isn't all about asking questions, buddy. Okay? Life is about sitting down, shutting the fuck up, and listening. All right? Great question, though. Any more questions? Yeah, exactly what I fucking thought. Holy shit, what an awful take. Holy. And I love how, some pharmaceutical companies would, pay doctors to promote their products, or people to dress up like doctors. That was, a thing for, Purdue Pharma, whatever, because they were one of, the worst opioid things, was they would pay, salesmen to dress up as doctors and, go around and give these sales talks to people about how they need to get on fucking opioids. And now we've learned it's, probably one of the most harmful things that's ever been done to our population in terms of getting people addicted to drugs. It's just, oh my God. It is so insane. So insane that we thought that at one point. Next one comes from Spew Pew Pew. That all fat was bad for you. Thus, fat-free foods became a thing for a while. Yeah, and it's fat is... This is another thing. It's just these things. It's just this marketing stuff, man. And we need more long-term data, because we've only been collecting data. Think of how long it took for cigarettes to be seen as bad, right? It was almost what would it have been? They started marketing cigarettes really going for it, late 1800s, early 1900s, and it didn't really get seen as fully bad until like the 90s. Like, I think that's when they banned like smoking. Excuse me, the banning like in the early 2000s even they started banning smoking in indoor environments. It was like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't just have smoke, something that, obviously you start to cough and it hurts when you inhale, just filling up entire restaurants where children are present. Yeah, why don't we just, that seems smart. It's like, no, it's strengthening their lungs. See, kids these days, they're not built to last. These kids are soft. Can't even inhale a fucking cigarette. Oh my God. You want to know what it was like for me growing up? All right? My parents are just making me just chain smoke cigarettes. Just to teach me a lesson. Just teaching me about about resilience. Just my lungs collapsed. All right? And you know what I learned from that experience? Well, maybe I shouldn't ask that because I don't really know what I learned from that experience. But I learned something, okay? I learned something. Older generations just think it's just pain. That's only how you learn is just pain. It's like, God damn it. Yeah, we get these expressions like drill it into your head. Like, that sounds violent. Why would I want to drill something into my head? Yeah, you just got to drill it in your head. That sounds awful. It sounds like I'm taking a bunch of facts and just like taking a drill and just drilling a hole in my fucking head. Last time I checked, you'll actually die from that. Last time I checked, that's actually a really harmful thing to do that can cause massive amounts of injury and death. I don't think it's ever been recommended to drill a hole in your head. I think that was a practice for a long time. It's something we used to call a lobotomy. And I think that, according to the most recent medical literature, lobotomies are not recommended, not highly recommended on the list of treatments, for mental disorders. Don't really think it's very high up on the list of treatment options, So I don't think many doctors nowadays would recommend drilling a hole in your head. But yeah, it's just so much marketing stuff. Like, we need fat. Turns out we need it. Turns out it's actually bad if we don't have it. It's like the whole salt and sodium thing. Sodium, we need it. It's an electrolyte. It will literally give you energy. And yet we're being told it's like, if you eat a grain of salt, you will disintegrate. It is going to cause you to just your heart is going to cave in on itself if you eat salt. Holy shit. But yeah, it's like so much of this stuff that we need. It's just, I think the important thing is well, my mom was really good about this with growing up. Like, we definitely were restricted in the amount and the types of foods that we could eat. But honestly, I saw that as a good thing because I think my mom, more than anything, didn't want to create unhealthy habits. Because it's not like a lot of these foods are bad for you, but they're bad for you in excess. And if you eat some of this food more than others is worse in excess. Like fruit, for example, it's hard to really eat fruit in excess in it for it to be bad for you. So you can eat a lot of it. But should that be all you eat? Fuck no. But it's definitely good to eat, to eat a decent amount of fruit. But where it's like potato chips, it's not horrible inherently to eat potato chips, but it's about how much you eat. Yeah, it's not inherently horrible to eat potato chips, but it is horrible to eat potato chips, like a bag of potato chips every single day. You know what I mean? It's just that's not going to be as good for you because then you're just consuming in excess. Anyways, look at me. Just like, I am not a doctor and I'm just spewing advice right now. Look at this. This is just going off of what I've heard. So please take all of my advice and look it up because I could just be completely lying to you. I could just be spreading disinformation. I am the disinformation artist. I could be spreading complete nonsense information right now. Yeah, so the moon doesn't exist. All right? I'm the moon denier. You know? Have you ever heard of the moon? Yeah, well, it turns out the moon doesn't exist. All right? I'm a moon denier, and you all should believe it too, because it's just a projection. Yeah, eclipses are just a big movie in the sky. It's not real. It's an optical illusion. The government wants you to believe that. Yeah. The government has a massive incentive in you believing the moon is not real. It's like the moon, yeah, the faking the moon landing. It's like the government. Yeah, the government has just a huge incentive to make you believe that the moon landing didn't happen. And the reason is because, well, we can't think of it right now, but it's probably a good reason. Yeah, it makes total sense. Next one comes from Darth Byzantius. That sounds fucking dope. Very not very often we come across cool like Reddit usernames. Oftentimes they are just cryptic or just something sexual related. Yeah, from Darth Byzantius, he says that your permanent record is going to follow you into adulthood. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't much for getting a permanent record, but I was always so scared what the school file had on me. It's like, yeah, I don't think universities are looking to pull your high school rap sheet, all right? I mean, I wouldn't encourage you getting arrested on a real rap sheet. That is something that will follow you. But, okay, so what? You drew something vulgar on the board or said something stupid in class or, just did something dumb in high school. Like, yeah, that's... Well, Jim, we've heard great things about you. We've called all your references, from your previous work in your previous jobs, and we're just astounded at the level of excellency that it seems that you bring to the table, and just the work ethic we've heard from sources has been just phenomenal. There is one thing though, Jim. We did pull your high school file, and gotta say, disappointed. Just really disappointed in what we saw in there. Yeah, it's talking back to teachers. Really, what were you thinking? Let me just really get at the meat here, Jim. What were you thinking? Do you seriously think we would hire you at this job when you've got this on your record? Like it is hilarious to me you even decided to come in and show up today. This is just, Jim, I can't even just express to you my disappointment. All right, showing dissent, okay? This is just unheard of. We have never made a mistake in our entire lives, Jim. We don't hire people that make mistakes. It's funny to me that you think that you thought you could get hired here. You don't think we'd pull this file? We know everything about you, Jim. We know everything. We know when you pissed your pants in the 5th grade. You tried to hide it, and then you took a pair of pants from the lost and found. You thought no one would notice, and everyone noticed. You don't think we would know this about you, Jim? We know everything. Big Brother is always watching. Okay? Yeah, as if this was something that was going to follow you around your whole life. Reply from Me Want Pie. Only time I found out that record was used was for college admittance. A really smart person had a bunch of red flags in his profile. He would talk back endlessly, have rejection letters stating his records were not clear enough to even apply there. He turned out fine. I think he's a lawyer in a big city. Another reply from Caligaris Cabinet. Turns out talking back and being argumentative in class as a kid set the foundation for being a successful lawyer. Who would have thought about that? Reply from Juvelatoid FU. I have a good friend who retired from a law firm 5 years ago. He had set a goal of being able to retire by the time he was 52, because after going to college for a basic degree and then law school, and finally getting hired, he discovered that he was very good at the job, but he hated it. He was a medical malpractice defense attorney, and he still advises his old firm on an advisory basis. They had offered partnership, but he says it wasn't worth the ulcers and migraines that he suffered to stay on. He didn't quite make his retire at 52 goal. He retired at 54. He now refs high school sports, baseball, and football mostly. I've asked him if angry parents and coaches ever get under his skin, and he says no. Some idiot parent or coach who is up in the stands or half a field away can't compete threat-wise with hostile lawyers and nervous clients with hundreds of thousands of $1 million on the line. And being a perfectionist, he knows the rules backwards and forwards. He always has an impressive lawyer voice that not many people can stand up to. It probably doesn't hurt that high school sports are desperate for people, qualified or not, to referee sports because the turnover is so high. The tie-in here is that he was always a model student, both grade and participation-wise. He felt that a number of his teachers were middling to poor, but he kept that opinion to himself after he graduated from that high school. I have no idea what that has to do with anything at all. But thanks for the story, though. Next one comes from SlightMess6615. Strangers will give me free drugs on street corners and in Halloween candy. Yeah, this one it's sadly been debunked. If you want drugs, turns out you're going to have to pay a lot of money for them. And then it's going to ruin your life because of how much money you have to pay for drugs. It turns out not people aren't just itching to give away crack. It turns out that that's actually false information. It turns out you actually really do have to seek it out. Not that I've ever seeked out crack in my entire life, but yeah, the way that they made it sound in elementary school was that if you so much as trick or treat in an area that is unfamiliar to you, you will be forced to smoke crack. They will give you crack wrapped in candy wrappers. And that's just, and you're going to get addicted to drugs. And it's just going to be all up in your Halloween candy. Just full of it. It's like, yeah, why don't I just open this Twix bar? Oh, there's a needle in here. Let me just go ahead and eat this. Like, oh my God. I really don't know where that sort of stuff started. I really don't know. Like, this can't be that common. That you would find something like that. And just, what kind of people do shit like that? Yeah, I don't even know. All right, next one comes from Deuteronomy 93. That you always will never have a calculator on you. It turns out having a calculator on you is basically essential to living in a modern life. It's actually, the problem is that if you don't have a calculator on you, life is going to be very difficult. It used to be that, if you don't have a calculator on you, you have to just, you got to go off of your mind and like you need to not have a calculator. But now it's like, no, we need to have this little calculator on us all the time because we're constantly getting fucking emails, and notifications and all this stuff. You will not be accepted into modern society if you don't have a calculator on you at literally all times. How about that? How about that 180? How does that one feel? You're not going to have a calculator on you. Well, it turns out if I don't have a calculator on me, I will probably not get a job. Most jobs give you a calculator. Like professional jobs, I guess. No, not necessarily. If you work at Starbucks, they're not going to give you a company phone. Well, they probably would if you're like a manager. But turns out a lot of companies actually give their employees a calculator. So, yeah. So much for memorizing my times tables. Next one comes from Feminist on Reddit. I once asked one of my elementary school teachers what a rainbow was, and she told me scientists hadn't figured it out yet. I walked around until my early 20s thinking that. Also, I think it was the same teacher that told me Columbus thought the earth was flat. They were training teachers a different kind of way in the 70s and 80s. It's honestly one of the reasons I'm thankful for the internet, because depending on your teacher, an outdated encyclopedia for answers could be a real roll of the dice. That is so true. And I was talking to my dad about this like a long time ago, was that if you wanted to find out information, you couldn't just look it up. Like, he told me that, yeah, like he used to use encyclopedias to look up information and just go to a library. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like fucking hell. That sounds painstaking. And it sounds like some of these teachers would be like in school and they were in university, and it's like, all right, we want to teach our youth the most fundamental aspects of education. Remember, you are the authority figure in this situation. If you don't know, it is okay to make it up. All right? We want to encourage an environment of making it up. It is important that they just listen to you as the authority figure in the class. If you don't know it, fuck it. Make it up. Just pull it out of your ass and they'll believe you. Just get them to say whatever to get them to shut the fuck up. And then just move along. Have them learning and just knowing this disinformation, this misinformation their entire life. It can't hurt them. Couldn't possibly hurt them. Don't know how rainbows work? Make it up. You're a teacher. You're the teacher. Make it up. It's completely make it up. So this reminds me of a meme that I saw, and it was like a Reddit thread. And it was like, someone replied to some like post, and they were like, I can't believe in the UK that they don't have, they're not allowed to have bread, and they can't play video games, and, you know, all this stuff. And then someone was like, where have you heard this information? This is completely false. And then they replied back to it, and they were just like, I made it up. I fabricated that information, just so you know. I knew it wasn't true. I am just the disinformation artist. I just like, you know, just spreading it, you know, just casually. It's my thing. Didn't know how rainbows work. I feel like we've known how rainbows worked for a really long time. Maybe you don't know how rainbows worked, but I think we have now known that rainbows, like, it's not a very hard principle to understand how rainbows work. It's kind of just basic sciences of light. Like, if you could just look through a prism. Didn't we learn this all the time in elementary school, where they brought in the prisms and you like look in it and then you understand how light reflects and why it creates the spectrum of the color spectrum of the rainbows? I feel like that's okay. A reply from Temalian. I remember being told that only Columbus thought the earth was round, and literally everyone else in Europe thought it was flat. And that's why he couldn't get funding at first to explore, because everyone thought he was going to fall off the side of the earth. Turns out that's so wrong, it's not even funny. It turns out he actually didn't, the funding he needed to explore, he was just looking for India. And he just didn't know where he was at. And then when he got to North America, North America, South America, it would have been, anyways, he thought he was in India. He didn't even know where he was at. My boy did not even know where he was. Okay. The next one comes from Cheese Turds. No one is going to wait for you to look up information in the real world. You have to know it. It has to be the most insane thing I ever heard. Yeah, just memorize everything. Everything you've ever heard is memorized. That's what adults make you think as a kid. Is that when you're an adult, you're expected to just know everything and just memorize all of life. All information you've ever heard, they make it sound like such pressure when you're a kid that if you don't remember everything, you're fucked. You're basically screwed for your entire life because you don't remember shit. So if you don't remember these basic mathematical principles throughout your whole life, you know, like if you don't remember how to do the basic trigonometry, you don't remember how to do this, you're going to be screwed. You might as well just be homeless. You might as well just start tending outside. You might just give up. Literally give up. If you can't remember historical fact when Abraham Lincoln took his last shit? Sorry. You're homeless. That's just adults. That's what happens. As soon as you turn 18 years old, if your memory just doesn't automatically click in, sorry, you're fucked. Reply from Environmental Ebb 8812. That never made sense to me even before everyone had the internet in their pocket. One of my high school English classes, we were constantly writing essays without being allowed to consult the books we've been assigned. What? This was to prepare us for the final state exam, in which we'd be given an essay prompt, which was to remain a mystery until they actually handed us the exam and would not be allowed any outside material to bring with us. I'd always wondered, do they expect us to memorize every detail of every book we've ever read in order to write one essay for the dumbass exam? Yeah, because in the real world, when you're going to be have to recite random novels, that is just an essential skill of living as an adult nowadays. Is if you can't recite every novel you've ever written and the exact storyline and plot to Of Mice and Men, then you might as well just, give up. Because it's just, you're not going to succeed in life. It's all over for you. It's all over for you. So, there you go. All right. Folks, thank you all so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Reddit Ask Us podcast. I'm so happy to be back here with you again for another week's episode. Oh my goodness. So thank you all so much again for tuning in. Remember, if you're watching or listening, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast, please leave us a rating, and also please leave us a review. Remember, if your comment is also too large, then you can go to my YouTube channel and comment it on my YouTube channel. But again, I just want to express how much it means to me when people rate the show and comment on the show. It's really an honor to be here with you every week. And then remember that you can reply to this week's question by going to the description of the episode in Spotify and clicking the description into the lower right icon. Should be an icon that says white icon that says reply, and you will be notified when your response is published, and I will read that response out loud on the next week's following episode. I can't wait to be back again for another week's episode. I love each and every single one of you. Peace out. Love you. Bye.